All right, thanks for joining us. This is the John Wall Street Big Business on Campus podcast, powered by Playfly Sports. I'm Mike Schreiber, the executive chairman of Playfly Sports, and my co-host is Corey Leff here, joining as well. One with a hat and one without a hat. I assume you can tell the difference between who we are here. But more exciting than us as hosts is our guest today. So we've got an amazing lineup for the podcast today with two guests, both leaders of the Baylor University Athletic Department. So we've got Mack Rhoades, the Vice President of Athletics at Baylor University. And we've got Jovan Overshown, who is the Deputy Director of Athletics at Baylor University. So welcome to the show here with us. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here. I'm not gonna speak for Jovan, but Jovan is specifically on this podcast to fact check me and help me out as we proceed through the questions. So
we got like our own little stat boy here.
Yes, you guys remember? There we go.
PTI.
Right, from PTI. Exactly. Good. Well, you guys certainly have both done an amazing job at Baylor University in your tenure. Really interesting and exciting numbers. I think the stats I have is maybe over 24 Big 12 championships, 8 national titles in the sports you guys you both covered, and you can probably correct me or even add to that list. But just amazing track record, a number of awards as well that have been won by you both and the department. So just excited to talk to you. Happen to be also an esteemed Playfly partner on the Playfly Sports side, which is exciting. But wanted to kick off maybe in that vein, in the media and revenue side here, and talk about some of those concepts. Corey, do you want to kick off perhaps with the first set of questions?
Yeah. So Mac, in our last episode, we talked to an AD from another Big 12 school, Desiree Reed-Francois from Arizona. Arizona, of course, a public school. Tucson, a big city of over 1 million people. Baylor is a bit different. Private school in a metro market, a third of the size. How are the challenges that you guys facing different, if at all, from the ones that in Arizona or a school in a bigger city would in a post-house world?
Yeah. So fun fact, one, big fan of Desiree's, and two, Tucson's my hometown, and Arizona is I'm an alum of Arizona. So
that makes two of us. Oh,
yeah.
Is this going to be an Arizona podcast right now? Is that what we're turning this into?
There we go, Corey. So, I think I think industry-wide, I think everybody's feeling financial strain. And, you see brands across the country that are having to let go of people, make different adjustments in terms of operating budgets, et cetera. I think, most of us, if not all of us, are dealing with donor fatigue. I think that is real. This window of time, the last 24 months, pay for play has taken its toll when you think about just donors in general. And so I think difference between public and private, and maybe specifically, us versus Arizona and some of the other public institutions, state institutions in the Big 12, is volume of people, right? When we think about, we have less volume, of donors. Our undergrad population is about 14,500. And so we've got to be really, really strategic when we think about reach out engagement with donors. Like when we think about percentage of donors we have to reach a higher percentage. And so, working in partnership with the institution, with University Advancement, I think they provide great support. I think we do a good job. I think we can do even a better job. And so you're going to hear me use the word efficiency. So we've got to be extremely, extremely efficient with our engagement with our alums. And we have a national alumni base, even though a private institution. And I think that creates a little bit of challenges as well. But we, again, just need to be really, really efficient in who we target and how we target and how we engage.
This episode is brought to you by Shorts Sports Travel Logistics, the fastest growing leader in college athletics travel, and the trusted choice for over 108 athletic departments nationwide. With their promise, team travel made easy, Sports simplifies every aspect of team travel. air charters, commercial flights, buses, and hotels. By turning complex logistics into a competitive advantage, they've become the trusted partner for programs committed to winning on and off the field.
You mentioned donor fatigue. What about fan fatigue? Baylor introduced new ticket pricing strategies and season ticket models to help support operational sustainability and player rev share. How has that process gone? And has that been more challenging for you guys because it is a smaller market to fish from?
Yeah, I think one, extremely well. It's gone really, really well. We hadn't increased prices for football in 3 years. And so this was a good time for us to do that, for us to introduce it. And we didn't introduce it. You saw some other strategies about fees, NIL fee, house fee, those types of things, talent fee. We introduced it as a straight ticket price. And I think, Jovan and her team did an incredible job of just being really transparent with our fan base, really connecting, hey, there's a reason behind this, the expense that comes along with house settlement. And then I think for us in the future, I think with fan bases is to be just really clear for them, and give them a heads up in terms of what to expect. Every year expense is going to increase, and we're going to have to find a way and not just put it all on our fans, but some of it we're going to have to, generate through different ticket pricing strategies. And then finally, we were, fortunate to move into this beautiful, brand new, Foster Pavilion basketball arena. And so that was an opportunity to really take a close look at our pricing. And what we found, we were in the bottom third of the Big 12, a national championship men's program, a women's program that's won 3 national championships, and we're in the bottom third. And so, we moved up prices. I think now we're probably in the middle third. And, that will be the challenge, I think, always with ticket pricing moving forward, is that balance in terms of generating more revenue. But where's the balance in terms of now, price point and what your fans can afford? So, but Jovan and her team did a fabulous job of introducing that to our fan base. And Jovan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that we received one complaint, which is absolutely amazing.
And you guys, both of you tend to be more leaning towards innovation and trying new things. We've been able to partner at Play Flat Sports with you on so many new exciting opportunities. What do you see on the revenue side as areas that you're focused on that are really new, interesting, driving new diversity into your revenue streams that are really a sign of the times of future that you guys are leading in the industry?
Well, great question. I think, the times really challenge you to look at revenue in a lot of different multiple ways. Conference revenue distribution is what it is. And so how do we do different things, other things? And so, thinking about premium seating, premium seat spaces, how can we be creative? Play fly, the Magnolia Brazos field suite, end zone suite. That's an example of something creative, outside the box, something that put our fans, gave them a premium experience, but also put them right in the action. And so really trying to meet our fans in terms of their lifestyle and where they're at and how they want to enjoy, for example, a game. And we also need to know and understand that that's going to change over time and continue to be really, really flexible. I think for us, we're just dabbling. What does AI mean in this space? And, that's such a topic of conversation. I'm certainly not an expert and I'm learning every day, but how can we use AI to help generate revenue? There's also a lot of other different ways we can use AI. So those are some examples. What are we doing in terms of special events? We've got, some unbelievable facilities, here. McLean, we just had a huge concert series in McLean. Thing that was special about that particular event is just the community that came to Baylor campus, and I would guess at least 50% of that base of people that came to the concert had never been onto our campus, and so being able to experience and see Baylor in new ways, and so those are just some ways, some areas that at least we've explored, we'll continue to explore. We had I think we've had up to now 2 or 3 concerts in the new Foster Pavilion. So those are just, again, some examples. And Jovan, I don't know if there's anything that I didn't touch on.
No, I think that's good. I would just, really probably giving a little more credit to how you have shifted our thinking. I think as a department, we are not really looking at innovation as one-offs or additive pieces. We are really looking at the whole ecosystem of how our fans and donors engage with us. And I think that's what makes it so effective is to what, like Max said, we are acknowledging that people want to engage in different ways, but we're also ensuring that what we do is there's authenticity to it. The brands we partner with, the licensees that we bring on board, that there are deep woven ties that have storytelling, because that then allows you to have this kind of authentic layered experience that again pulls into this overall ecosystem. So I think Mack has challenged us to shift the way that we are looking at things philosophically, which ultimately impacts our ability to innovate.
So you guys referenced the Brazos Suites. Can you just explain exactly what they are for the audience who doesn't know? And I guess the follow-up question to that is, what is the success of selling those suites say to you guys about what the future fan or what the fan wants from their future experience at sporting events?
I'm going to let Jovan take this one because she's got a much better handle on just the real specifics of that suite.
No, I think they're awesome. They are field level. They're field level suites. Some would say, they're one of the best vantage points in the house. I think when I look at those suites, you've got the opportunity to seat 150 people right there at the end zone. It signals flexibility. It signals more of what we were just talking about and responding and adapting to the different lifestyle and interest of our base. But it's that modernized approach. We've flipped the script, if you will. We've kind of turned upside down this concept of premium spaces. And we're grateful to have a partner that's in Magnolia and Playfly that allows us to create new inventory opportunities that authentically fit who we are. But it's just a signal of the times. Things are shifting. The way people want to engage is changing. And I think that adaptability is really key. But it is a great place that you just, from a brand perspective, it's insane. But also from an experience standpoint, it's really spectacular.
Just one last question on monetization, and then Mike, we can flip over to talk about NIL and some of the other things going on in college sports. But how does Baylor's Christian identity impact your ability to sell partnerships and make media decisions, et cetera? And I guess the follow up to that is, has it evolved as the need to generate revenues has increased?
I think that was one of the attractions to Playfly is they really took the time, you all took the time to really know and understand who we are as an institution, respect that, but also challenge us. And I think we needed to be challenged as well and continue to be challenged in terms of, what are the boundaries, what are the limits? And, our Christian identity is central to everything we do. It's who we are. We're not gonna compromise that. And so, Playfly working alongside has done a great job of, really exploring different partnerships, people that really respect that, understand it, that, certainly support, building champions for life, our 4 pillars, et cetera. At the same time, we all know there's never been greater pressure to generate additional and new revenues. And so, I think right now in trying to thread that needle can be stressful. It can be strained. But I think, one, just, hey, does this align or does it not align? Period. Right. And I think versus, right, well, we've never done that before. And so trying to figure out, hey, there's some areas that maybe we've never gone before because that's just always been the standard, and looking to push those without crossing line. And I think we've done a really, really, good job of that. And we need to continue to do that and find that, that area where we can push, but still not compromise who we are. So I appreciate Playfly and the way they've challenged us in that space.
Well, appreciate that. Thank you for the partnership there. Exciting to keep innovating together. To shift off the revenue category, love to talk about the sort of topic du jour right now in college sports, which is the house settlement and athlete NIL and rev shares. How do you guys think about this when you think about that $20.5 million and the rev share model and divvying that up across your athletic program? What are some of the thoughts you guys have developed there to try to figure out how to make that happen, and what is fair for these amazing athletes?
Yeah, probably, the most difficult challenge that I've had in my career is, how do you take $20.5 million less some scholarship money, et cetera, and divide it and still make everybody feel good and feel valued. And that's really, really difficult. We've been blessed that we've have 19 sport programs, and they've all been extremely successful, competitive on a national level. And now all of a sudden you have to choose and pick. And so certainly, staying competitive is a huge driver when you begin to think about how we're going to model this, how we're going to distribute the monies. And our team, and I've said this publicly before, our team, Jovan, and the rest of the cabinet were tremendous in terms of all the different modeling we did, et cetera. But bottom line, we really, as a foundation, really looked at the house settlement, the back damages, and how the back damages are distributed: 75, 15, 5, and 5. So 75% to football, 15 to men's basketball, 5 to women's basketball, and then 5 to everybody else. And so we followed that model. There's some nuances, and so those numbers aren't exact, but really thinking about who are our brand building sport programs and certainly revenue generating sport programs. So, which programs have a national reach versus which programs have more of a local regional reach. And so really, taking those monies and going, hey, for our brand building, national brand building sports, we're gonna give them some of those monies, or not some of them, but most of those monies. And those, as you can imagine, were really difficult conversations because we have great coaches. They're all competitors. And what we keep saying is, hey, let's see, I don't think it's 12 months from now. It's probably 18, 24, maybe 36 months. Where does the dust settle? When we think about who's getting what or what sport programs are getting what, let's see where dust settles. And then, hey, if we have to tweak, if we have to make an adjustment, we'll do it now. But hey, bottom line, we have to have those brand building sports. They have to be successful and they have to be competitive for us. And again, we love all of our coaches and we love all of our student athletes. So really, really hard stuff.
Mack, you guys hired a NIL general manager earlier this year to mirror professional sports team structure. How has refining your front office leadership improved revenue forecasting, NIL valuation, and media inventory deployment?
Yeah, I think simply just the intentionality of being hyper-focused on those areas. And, you think about the college athletic landscape, and you think about, higher education and the way athletic departments have been structured, organized for years. And as things have changed, like athletic departments and just higher education in general have been really slow to react and move and change the way they operate and the way they structure and organize. And so, for us, and we're not the only ones, and we know that, but hey, this change is to a point, place, and time that we've got to rethink our operation. We've got to professionalize it. We've got to reorganize it. We've got to have intentionality. We have to have a central unit where we think about, hey, from the moment your student athlete, they become a prospect, all the way through the recruiting process, and until they show up and land on our campus, and then, hey, that's a next stage and a next phase. And so, how we evaluate talent, how we stretch dollar, how football, men's basketball, women's basketball, communicate with one another. I think one of the things as a leader, when you look at your organization, there are inherent silos, and silos that have existed for years. You don't even really realize them. And so, how do you go about, not where everybody's doing everything. There's still defined roles, but you take down those silos, and we've got an efficient operation where there's great synergy and collaboration amongst different programs, et cetera. And so, I think, also, be true to yourself. You don't know what you don't know. And in this space, right, just trying to learn every day on how we build what we call an industry best front office.
You mentioned earlier in the conversation, Mac, the concert series at McLean Stadium. How have you been thinking about maximizing that facility as a year-round economic driver for the school or for the athletic department?
Yeah, we look at McLean, Stadium as not a Baylor facility or an athletic facility, but it's really a community facility. And so, what type of events, can we do to really bring community to McLean Stadium, to Baylor, and like the past concert, to Waco, for those that haven't been to Waco. And so, again, thinking about concert, thinking about high school football games, thinking about different speaker series, all those different types of things that we can bring to the stadium. Now, first and foremost, it's a football stadium, and we're going to protect that. That's where we play football. It was built to play football there, and so we'll continue to do that. But we need to expand in terms of outreach to community and bringing community to the Baylor campus.
So maybe it's helpful to talk here about the arena, Foster Arena. You mentioned it earlier, and the amazing success of that launch, and even more so the largest gift, I think, in Baylor's history, coming into that endeavor. Be interested in how you think about those types of projects, including even the Fudge Development Center for football. How do you think about how those projects came to be, how that reshapes Baylor's profile, and how you look at building out more of those projects in the future?
Yeah, so I would just say, one, grateful to have donors like Paul and Alejandra Foster and Jeremy and Christy Fudge, because those projects aren't reality without the both of them. I would also say too, timing's everything, and so when you think about this turbulent space that we've been in, we've had this conversation. If we would have started those projects and begin to ideate, 6 months later, I'm not sure they become reality, because now all of a sudden, hey, there's this force of NIL and trying to put all resources toward that. And so, we were blessed that we started that when we did. And then I think you've got to look at facilities. They're not just a building. They tell a story, and they impact lives. And so, keeping that in mind as you begin to create, you begin to design, do all of those things, really, really important. I mean, we talked about that a lot with architects. Like, when somebody walks through the Foster Pavilion, a fan, a student athlete. We have to have a story for each one of those, and what do they leave that facility with as they walk away in both Foster Pavilion and the Fudge Development Center. So I do think as things begin to level out, 10 years ago, it was an arms race, best facilities. Then we moved to pay for play. I think you're going to see us move back to where facilities are important and there'll be emphasis on them. And so I'm grateful because I think we've positioned Baylor really, really well when you think about football, men's and women's basketball, and infrastructure for those programs. At the same time, navigating, hey, how do we handle house and additional NIL opportunity.
How do you evaluate ROI on those two projects? Meaning, is it recruiting impact or donor enthusiasm or premium seating revenue? What is it that indicates success or lack thereof on those projects?
Jovan, I would love to hear your answer on this, but I would just say it has to be all of the above. Like if you miss one of those, then you've missed, right? There's the fan piece and fans exciting, making an exciting arena, exciting event to come to, right? The energy level, all of those things. Like you want your fans to feel like, hey, I'm not going to miss out on being there. And I think we did that. I think you have to know who you are, right sizing the building, understanding that supply and demand, fear of missing out, all of those things. But man, you've got to hit it with your fan base. And there's different levels in terms of fan base and premium seating and general seating and all of those things. It has to be a plus for recruiting. It has to be a huge impact in terms of being able to recruit and attractive, and hey, we're serious about winning. We're serious about competing at the highest level. We have all of the things necessary in order for you to come here and develop as a athlete, but also develop as a person. And that goes back to, hey, what's in our building? Yeah, we need to help them develop as an athlete, but also as a person. And so you've got to meet the mark on all of those things. Otherwise, you've missed it. So, Jovan, anything that I left out or any additional thoughts?
No, I think all that's great. I think the one thing that I would say, Mack has told the story before, but so our head football coach, so Dave Aranda, when he walks in, the first time he showed the team the Fudge Development Center, he said it feels like winning. Like you walk in and you feel the pressure of needing to be a winning program. I think that is symbolic of everything that Max said and more. I think that is what we want people to feel when they walk into our venues or when you see them broadcast on television. You want us to feel the elevated level of competition, of standards, of excellence, of the Baylor difference that Mack references. We want that felt just by seeing or experiencing our facilities. And I think that elevates your brand profile. All of those feelings, I mean, yes, it's not all quantifiable, but there is something about an experience that encapsulates you in greatness that elevates your brand, elevates everything that Max spoke to. And I think that's the only other piece that I would add as kind of how you measure that ROI of your success.
This episode is brought to you by Shorts Sports Travel Logistics, the fastest growing leader in college athletics travel, and the trusted choice for over 108 athletic departments nationwide. With their promise, team travel made easy, Sports simplifies every aspect of team travel: air charters, commercial flights, buses, and hotels. By turning complex logistics into a competitive advantage, they've become the trusted partner for programs committed to winning on and off the field.
You hit on, or Mac hit on, the enthusiasm amongst the fans in a new building and the excitement that they have around the game. College athletics is competing in a crowded entertainment landscape, right? How do you guys, or how have you been rethinking the game day experience to attract younger and more diverse fans?
Yeah,
This is Jovan's
Oh,
area of expertise. I just say, Jovan, please make it a great fan experience. And so she does that. Jovan?
well, look, Mack has allowed us to bring some great people on board. I think this past weekend was an illustration of that. We had many layers of the experience. I mean, from obviously you have a great, an SEC matchup. You already have the environment itself on the riverfront, but then you have a drone show and you have a very intense kind of buildup from the creative content that's part of it. You have opportunities for fans to engage with the content. Like there's just, I think you have to have a lot of different pieces to put together the puzzle. It's no longer you can experience just coming to a game and that being enough. So people want to have something memorable, and so we also often think about fan moments. We want to honor current and past traditions, but how can we enhance them and create additive moments to it? And so I just think it's the use of AI, it's the use of interactive pieces. We've talked about bringing COSM to our campus. Like there are just different things that you have to do to create more than just watching the game, which is a weird thing to say, but people have such expectation for so much more.
And on that note, how do you think about storytelling in that standpoint? Because we worked on a partnership with Sport and Story with you guys to build out the Baylor Brew, right? It has 73,000 subscribers that get an email multiple times a week, right? And it's 60% open rate, which is amazing, right? And that tells the Baylor story every week. But how do you think about that, engaging those fans when they're not in the stadium, right, versus in the stadium?
Yeah. Mack, you want to take this?
Sure. You go ahead, and then I'm going to add a couple things.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is I feel like our bread and butter. I feel like this is an opportunity where we can really shine, and I think those the engagement and the open rates are evidence of that, and it's because we have a unique story to tell, because we have committed to being bullish in our mission and our vision, but also at the same point equally bullish about being competitive. So I think there are neat through lines in everything that we do. If you really dive into the student athletes that have made the choice to come here, the resources that we have, even amidst our small market, which Max spoke to earlier, I think storytelling is just something that we will continue to be able to tap into and provide us with new outlets because we have amazing people. And when you think of the way that some of these individuals ended up right here on a campus, there's something really special happening here.
One quick question about on the engagement front. What role, if any, and I think about this in the context, I live up here in New Jersey, so like in the context of Seton Hall and St. John's, what role do churches and faith-based groups and regional community partners play in Baylor's fan engagement and donor pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, they obviously, the alignment, the connection, right, in terms of being a Christian university, they play a really, really important role in terms of, our connection and who we reach out to and how we get them engaged. I'm going to go back to a previous, question and just add on to that. We have to find ways to stay connected with our fan base throughout the entire year. It can't be just the 7 or 8 games, home games here at McLean. It can't be just the 18, home games for men's basketball, for women's basketball, et cetera. And so how do we do that? And I think, certainly Baylor Brew is one way, but what are other creative ways that, in the future we can stay connected? And then, the only other thing I'm going to add to all of that, like fan experience, attendance, I'm going to state the obvious. You better have a good product.
Yep.
And we can have all the great fan experience and all that stuff, but we've got to have a product on the field that people want to see. And so we need to continue to do that and continue to make sure that we, we're competitive. That's why front office, that's why NIL, that's why all of those things as we continue to evolve. But, Corey, to your question, those are groups, those are partnerships and relationships that we covet and are very intentional in terms of reaching out and getting engaged. But we can't limit it just to those groups and to those types of communities, churches, all of those things. That we have to be, broader and cast a wider, bigger net when we think about, our outreach. And, quite frankly, again, we talked to a lot of MMR partners, and we thought Playfly was the right one because they weren't a sponsorship company. They were a media company in terms of helping, tell our story and helping to connect and to expand. And so we've got I think we've got a lot of opportunity in front of us.
Well, just
Appreciate that.
maybe my last
Yeah.
question is, Mike, sorry, I just have one last question and I'll let you take it. Mack, what's the biggest opportunity for growth in college athletics over the next half decade?
I wish I had that crystal ball in terms of, where this thing lands. I will tell you some of the things that I think about, like our placement as an athletic department within the university. And, do we need to rethink what that looks like? Do we need, for example, to become a for-profit organization? What does that mean? What can we do as an organization to open up commercial opportunity? When we think about revenue generation, AI, where do we go there? Right? Right now we're just all dabbling and exploring, and there's probably a lot of different pathways that we can head down. How does AI potentially enhance revenue? How does it potentially enhance operational efficiency? How do we better get donors engaged when we think about transactional versus transformational? And so those are all conversations that we're having right now. We'll continue to have as you try to stay ahead of the curve. I think 5 years ago you needed a lot of technical experts within your athletic department. That, hey, you've got this problem, this is how you fix it. I don't think that exists anymore. I think we've got to have adaptive leaders. I think there's still some technical experts, but we've got to have leaders that can adapt, that can change, that can evolve, that collaborate in terms of problem solving, knowing that, hey, the answer to today's problem may be way different 6 months from now, a year from now. And so just really rethinking how we lead our organization and how we continue to adapt and change.
Where are you finding those people, I guess, is a logical follow-up. Are those people
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. Jovan is.
Jovan, where
No.
are you finding those people in college sports, or are you looking beyond other athletic departments?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Corey. And I think we're in that exploration phase is where to find them. I think, be interesting when you look first within, you'd be surprised in terms of just some of the people and some of the hidden talents that you have. I'll give you the example of a David Kay, who was in communications. That's all he did. And now he's our NIL, general manager, flourishing. And who knew, right? And so there's a lot of opportunity, I think, within. But then I think, outside the organization, it may be, other athletic departments. It may be non-traditional. And so, again, I don't think you limit yourself. I think you look. I think the minute you limit yourself or say, hey, like I see it happening right now in our industry, we're now going to look at athletic directors that have been outside the industry. I think that's a huge mistake to just limit yourself there, because there are some really talented athletic directors in our industry that have a mind and a thought process for thinking outside of the box, for being adaptive leaders. And so I think you've got to look all over.
That's great. So I tend to be the bearer of bad news. We're going to have to wrap here in this amazing discussion. But this is really been a great set of topics. You both have shown a significant amount of innovation in the industry. And as the name of the podcast, Big Business on Campus, you guys embody that at both of you at Baylor University. So just Corey and I want to thank you again, Mack and Jovan, for joining us here and talking about your successes and your thoughts around Baylor University Athletics, and the college sports industry in general. So we appreciate it. And thank you to our audience. I think they're going to get a lot of interesting insights out of today's podcast here. So thank you for joining the John Wall Street Big Business on Campus podcast, powered by Playfly Sports. Amazing discussion today. Appreciate it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.